Right. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Right. Welcome, Violeta, in my podcast. It's an honor to have you here. And we met at the Tantra Festival, and afterwards, I did a training where you were one of the facilitators. And you taught me a lot. And the most profound thing I learned from you is to accept my body the way it is, even if I go to the gym or not. It doesn't care. I'm a beautiful woman with all my softness and everything. So thank you for that.
Mm,
Mm.
wow, this touches me
Mm.
as I've been just working with some of my students on that topic,
Oh, wow.
on the topic of self-love. Um, yeah, I think it's something that is important for all of us to know who we are and to love exactly these juicy parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
even those that maybe society wouldn't recognize as so lovable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my challenges with that too. It was a wow, it was a long ride to get there.
Yeah. I can imagine. I know it for myself. I had breast implants for 21 years, and this year in April I removed them. So the Tantra Festival was the first time I was naked with so many people showing my real breasts as they are, and it was really liberating. And I thought my breasts were very beautiful from the start when they took them out. But then I really had the consciousness of the rest of my body that I couldn't cope with when I was 21 years old. And I was like, oh, my belly, or oh, I'm a little bit fat, or oh, and I couldn't lose weight before the operation or before the festival. And I really felt I need to go there the way I am now because I really have to embrace my body as it is. And from that self love, I will go do my yoga again because I want to take care of me and of my health. So it was really beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is a beautiful weaving into that of that place that comes where we accept ourselves and do it from a place of love towards ourselves and not as one more thing we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And if I remember correctly, there was the breast massage area where we have simultaneously been at the same time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I supposed to say
No,
that?
it's all right. You can say everything.
Yeah, beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful. Karen, my journey was not so easy. Actually, what happened with me was I had a motorbike accident. The motorbike fell on me, on my womb, on my belly,
Mhm.
and completely smashed everything. For several months, I haven't been properly able to walk, to move at all. So I was basically in the horizontal from somebody who is, like I'm from Southern Europe, I'm moving, and, like there's always a lot of enthusiasm and touching and doing things, from somebody who is on that type of energy level, moving onto this very static horizontal was very, very challenging for me.
Yeah.
And then to accept as well that my body didn't want to perform the way I would like to was the second stage of that.
Yeah.
On a physical level, obviously not being able to move, but on an emotional level, seeing myself, how the body is transforming, and then like how I started walking again, how I started putting one foot in front of the other. That was so challenging, in fact,
Yeah.
that I I sometimes really think back whenever I'm like really like, bitching about my body,
Mhm.
then I'm thinking back of that moment. Wow, these legs have been carrying me. Like they relearned how to walk, how to set
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other. I relearned how to come into twists, how to come into movement. And this was wow, such a significant part of my life journey. In
Mhm.
fact, so many things happened at that time, but this is when I became aware of exactly this, what you have said. Yes, I can try to force myself into this kind of, I have to walk, I have to practice, into the space of, I do love myself. I do respect myself. And out of this self love, I will first ask my body what it needs,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe my body needed some touch, like some bath or some kind of massage or some kind of love that I was sending towards my legs, towards my belly and womb, rather than this kind of, okay, now we go, exercise day number 2, number 3, number 574.
Yeah.
It has paid off. I have a totally different approach to myself right now.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And as you said, in my head pops up, this is not my only journey. When I was 24 years old, I had chronic fatigue syndrome and I slept 17 hours a day. I couldn't stand up for 5 minutes. I was sick all the time. And that put me into, like the universe said, okay, I'm going to stop you because you are so full of self hate and that you're not being good enough on every level and so insecure. Yeah, I had to look at inside and I cleared so much and I really had to listen to my body because I couldn't do anything. And now I was just talking to a friend and I said I am so in acceptance now that when I'm tired and I have my kids here, I will go to bed at 9 o'clock with them if I need my sleep, and it's totally okay. And but and still, when I have an event or a temple night, and I can be again in my bitching to my body. Oh, I'm going to do a body and with an open crotch because I can leave it on. I was like, oh yeah, I'm again, and it's subtle, and you're conscious of it, but I'm free, but still, it is a challenge sometimes, and I think
Yes.
it's for all of us, and the social media, and I see it with young kids. We're all so programmed to work hard, go and in the masculine energy, but not divine masculine. It's a hardness, and it's not with an open heart. And because imagine a loving father. If you are overwhelmed or whatever, what does he say? What do you need? Do you need a hug? Come here with me, and he gives comfort and is being present. But
Mhm.
we are so damaged in ourselves, the divine masculine and the feminine, that we go all over the place and don't listen to our inner belly heart anymore. Yeah.
And while you're saying that, I'm just recalling, I had a couple of days ago, I had in German you would say, I'm from Southern Europe, but my business is in Germany. So in Germany we have a word like fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
exhaustion is translated into Erschöpfung. And in this word Erschöpfung, we have Schöpfung, which is the act of creation.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a free of charge event for all my customers. Like I have a huge group of women working together and just like growing together over the years. And we have figured out that if we really use this seed that is planted in this moment of complete exhaustion, we can create something so magnificent out
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And the same happened basically in my situation back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, there is like, yeah, it's not so comfortable to be in that bed all day, but yeah, you have to. There's like, you can do nothing. I could do nothing else.
Yeah.
There is nothing that's possible. I couldn't move. At that time, there was no really that much of mobile phones and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I could read, but there is only as much as you can read
Yeah.
in like being in the horizontal position, holding the book over your head.
Yeah.
So it has opened up that much space for myself
Mm-hmm.
that I maybe wouldn't have taken if I was not forcefully put to bed.
Yeah, that I think otherwise you would still be in the rat race like everybody in the matrix here. And you have your company, it's called Yoni Egg Rocks. Did it when did it started? When did you decided to?
Back then,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, I figured, but
it was back then. It was in the time when I was in bed. So just to give you an idea, I had a complete disconnection of my lower part of the body. So I would not be able to feel whenever I had like I had a bowel movement, or when I needed to go to pee, or let alone when my period would come. It would happen, and then I would know that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had a yoni egg, and for me, being like so bored, I thought, well, why wouldn't I use it to do something with it? And I've been really using it and practicing with it. At that time, it was, I'm talking about 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
there was not so much available in terms of information on yoni eggs and knowledge and in the internet and so on. It was very, very sparingly. So I have been developing quite a lot of these things myself. And
Mm-hmm.
then later on, I've learned as well from Master Chia, from the teachings of the Tao, and in the Tantra world, and from shamans. So that, you know, like that became a whole thing. But how I started with it was that I wanted to order some good quality yoni eggs, some prime quality yoni egg, like super exclusive. And I couldn't find it because mostly on the market, what I could find was super cheap materials, very usually very fake materials, usually from China, but not necessarily only from China. It's like not China bashing. It's just that very often they're from China,
Mm-hmm.
and very often they are dyed in various colors. These are like regular stones dyed in different colors. They are using very often glue, like they're grinding it and using glue to stick it together and to put it in shape. And sometimes even we have situations where they use a kind of a chemical polish outside to make them shine so that
Oh,
they look like spotless.
yeah.
But that is then not a natural stone anymore. This is something that I figured out for myself um, after knowing and understanding better who I am. I understood that I deserve better. I don't need a fake stone or something that is of such a low frequency, such a bad material on a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to put something in my yoni who is actually craving for healing.
Yeah.
So this is how it started. Basically, yeah, now we are approaching 10 years ago next year.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I have one of your yoni eggs. I have the black obsidian. And the first time I tried it, it was like it was very very intense, but the energy. And I have another one, but now you're describing like the quality differences. I really felt it, so it was really nice to have another energy with it.
You know, one of my clients, she was asking me a couple of days ago because I'm doing personal matching for women. So
Yeah.
I help them choose or find like the proper yoni egg for them in terms of size and quality and so on. And so she was looking for a yoni wand.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I do have an obsidian. And she said, you know, Violeta, your obsidian usually speeds up my life because it brings so much transformation.
Yeah.
And yes, yes, that's what I want to do. Wanted to do. I wanted to deliver something that is really of high quality and that is showing that appreciation that we ideally would have for ourselves. Because if we don't love our own yoni, how would we expect this from a partner, from a lover, from a doctor, and so on? So it's us who have to take care of it
Yeah.
in this place.
Yeah, I agree. And when I look at myself and my process in it, at one of the temple nights, the last temple night at the festival, I had a yoni worship and a linga worship. How do you call it? Yeah, a moment with somebody, and it was so sacred. But um, yeah, when I was younger, I really was ashamed of how it looked, and we are not being taught and how different every yoni looks, and men are much more comfortable with their lingam and because they touch it, and when I see with my clients, often older ladies, I often, do you do self pleasure? Oh no, no, I'm not doing it. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, why not? And it's not only about your vagina or your yoni, it's also how do you want to be touched and how do you want to be held, and do you give that to yourself? And it's really there's a lot of shame still around it.
Yes, that's right. We have been very shamed when it comes to our genitals and to our sexuality. For, let's say, for the women gender,
Mm-hmm.
you have been right with um, men are more open with their genitals because obviously, visibly, it's something different than with women. They can touch it, they can feel it pulsating. They they are more active with their genitals than women are because our genitals are obviously more to the inside.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to the moment of shaming or of shame or insecurities, or let's call it in the man language competition,
Yeah.
you have this too.
Yeah.
And I've had as a tantra therapist a lot of men who are coming and who are insecure about how it looks, how they perform, if it's really like if it should really be like this or like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are generally taught to feel shame about our genitals.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say generally. In many cultures, in many traditions, in many religions. And yes, and when we look back throughout the ages, there was a lot of shaming of sexuality in general.
Yeah.
If it's our sexual orientation, even if it's what you're doing. I know when I've been started to work with yoni eggs, um, now it sometimes brings back a smile to my brings back nice memories and creates a smile in my face, because when I arrived here in Germany, I would say 5 6 years ago, for example, Netherlands, I feel in Netherlands women are much more advanced, much more educated in many things than in Germany. And I arrived here, and I've been working all over Europe, in Sweden and Finland and in Netherlands and so on, with yoni eggs. So women were aware. Okay, only groups of women, but women did know about that.
Yeah.
And generally, there was this more of a kind of curious listening to that. And I remember when I arrived in Germany, it was really interesting to see the reaction. And then I contacted some magazines if they would eventually, like, or like to write something about that and so on. And then they were like, we don't write about topics like this.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And that was so fascinating for me. Now, the same magazine, I don't know if it was in 20 or in 21, like whoever bought one magazine in December, they got one yoni egg for free. And then I'm like, wow, like, how don't they realize that this is kind of the cheapest of the cheapest?
Yeah.
Like, no. But yes, and meanwhile, it's like not everybody knows it, but it's pretty popular. And yes, I know how many doors were closed in front of my face.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's much bigger than only society and beliefs, but from a spiritual perspective, sexual energy is the most powerful energy there is. It is creative energy, and we are creative beings, and that involves or embodies you are a sexual being. And yeah, the other parts of the matrix and keeping us down, they don't want us to step in our power. So
Mm.
from that point of view, I understand. And but also the shaming with men. Yeah, how do we learn about sex? It's in school, a little bit physical program, and on porno. Yeah, on porno, all the men have penises like this, and I can imagine, and they perform hours and hours, and
Oh, and what porns are you looking at? These big penises.
no, I'm exaggerating, of course. I don't want that in my yoni. No, it's too big.
Give me your movie list, darling.
No, I don't like porn anymore. Really? No, it's no. It's like two people without any open heart, just physical masturbating with each other. Like no, it's for me. It's
Yeah.
nothing about
And
sexuality.
you,
But
and you see, don't you think this is such a paradox? We have this kind of, still, we are in 2022. we have this kind of shame around the sex culture.
Yep.
And then we have this super primitive type of sex that is sold and sold a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I'm looking at I mean, I love checking out these things on Instagram, like OnlyFans and all these things. I'm just, wow. On one side, it's beautiful that it exists, but then I'm a little bit sad because coming from a tantric background, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm a sex therapist too, like a regular sex therapist. It's just that coming from a tantric background, there is so much soul to that.
Yeah.
Looking at the human side of it, what people crave who come to me, obviously they come to me because they're looking for that. But people who come to me, they're looking for that. They are looking for the soul part as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not just like beings that are just finishing off something, because this can be done by factories.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm really surprised about this contrast of
Mm-hmm.
sexuality here in that kind of context of holding things back and then having these kind of only very other things. For example, my business is blocked on Google
Oh, wow.
because of erotic content. And I'm just like, wow, and meanwhile, every teenager can download OnlyFans
Yeah.
or can record their even worse, they can record their videos on OnlyFans,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So I was like, oh wow, what an interesting
Yeah.
concept of reality this is.
Yeah, it is. And I think then still I'm coming back and they want to keep us in the shame and the suppression because, yeah, the entities, beings, how do you want to name it? That's my point of view of it. Feed off that emotion, of the shaming, of us being small, of our fear. So, yeah, of course, that's available. And if you really put soul to it and really go to the essence, no, that we will block because it's not all right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that, I have been experiencing so much of the slut shaming. Not, I think I am the prototype of slut shaming. Wow, because not only have I experienced that when I started my yoni egg business or later on working with sexuality, and then, people think when, so there is somehow the idea when people hear that I'm working with sexuality, that they think I'm constantly available for everything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, no, because I have my education. I actually have a very mature approach to sexuality.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say it started already when I got divorced. I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
I was 22 back then when I got my divorce.
Mm.
This is in
Wow.
my culture, it's not like, especially back then, it was not so normal. Like in Europe, like in Western Europe, women have been already divorced and, they would have the double names and stuff like that. In my culture, this was totally unknown. And yes, as a 22 years old, after 3 years of marriage, I decided I'm not going to continue that. This doesn't take me anywhere. And if it takes me anywhere, it takes me like into total emptiness. And I decided to get my divorce, and the slut shaming started. Back then, mind you, beginning of the 90s, slut shaming did exist, but the expression itself didn't exist, because slut shaming is something that started maybe like at the end of the 90s when a lady, I think Leona Tannenbaum or something, she wrote a book about sluts
Mm-hmm.
and that aspect of women that is being shamed for living freely out the parts of themselves that want to live openly, meaning they're talking openly about sexuality, they're open about contraception, they are open about menstruation, for example,
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So this is when she figured out, she really went into a deep dive about that topic,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's not only something that is popular now, it
No.
has existed forever and ever. The
Yeah.
witches have been burned
Yeah.
because they're shamed
Mm-hmm.
for what they've been
Yeah.
doing. Um, like, wow. And I lived in about, I lived and traveled about 40 countries in my life, where I have been spent tremendous time as well in living there and working with the people. And in doing so, I figured out that it's present in most of the cultures.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everywhere, and it's like you said, also the witch burning. And I saw a few months ago the Netflix series Bridgerton, and it's about an elite group in England. And as a woman, you had to marry from another wealthy family to keep your wealth, but
Mm.
you couldn't be alone with a man in the park or the garden. And if you were kissed or touched, you were dishonored. And the only women who were free were the whores. And like, it's so in our culture. And for me, when I experienced, I was like 14 years old and I had a lot of my, sexual energy. And yeah, every boy thought that I was having sex with everybody, and I kissed a few times, but I was very not active in that way yet. And or for example, when I talk about sexuality very openly with men, they're really like, "Oh, she's from doing it," and it's still so deep in the programming. It's
Mm.
really, really. I think we can really bring something that yeah, there don't has to be shame about it, and you can own your sexuality, and you say no, and when it feels right and you feel a heart connection or whatever, if you both consent of having pleasure, but respect each other and don't blame. And even now here in the Netherlands, like in students, when guys are having a lot of different girls getting laid, they're the champion and the man, and they pump each other up. And when one of the women is students is very free sexuality, she's the slut, and you don't have to date her. So it's still very present.
Yeah, and look what year we are writing. And what I believe is that hmm, I do believe that like many things that are being birthed into our time, and we have this huge shift of paradigm at the moment happening, and I do believe that we can create a new reality for ourselves, or a new level of consciousness is arising where we are understanding these things better. I do believe that we women can as well contribute to that when we
Yeah,
see a beautiful woman. And you were just mentioning, or we were just mentioning these topics when women are having sexual intercourse, or just like being very sexual in their way. But I sometimes, especially because I'm speaking several languages, so not everybody understands what languages I'm speaking and knows that I'm understanding. Then I sometimes hear how women are talking about each other, sorry, about another one, and I'm like, oh wow, she doesn't have to be a slut just because she likes to dress
yeah,
very in a very feminine way or something
hmm,
like that, or just because she doesn't want to wear a bra or something. Just like we can skip this. We can
yeah,
skip that amongst each other. And if we do that, that's already half of the world's population, more or less.
yeah,
So it definitely helps.
yeah. And really support each other like a sisterhood, and respect each other for everybody's choices. And everybody has his own path. And yeah, I think it's very important that we can be free sexual and also express it on the dance floor during aesthetic dance or when you go to a club. For me, my experience with aesthetic dance is that I can move freely, and it learned me to relate to men in a different way, and felt more safe because I could be very sexual, and there is no goal. After the dance, you give each other a hug and you thank each other for the beautiful dance you had. And um, if I do that in a club, there are 10 men around me, they want to get some. And I think we can really change that, and to give the example, but also be empowered to say no, and be respected for it.
Yeah, that's why I believe that events like where we have actually met at the Tantra
Mhm.
Festival, um, and the Awaken is all training, I think they're really very fertile ground for a type of new way of thinking, new way of feeling, new way of engaging with each other.
Yeah.
As to me, it's always fascinating to have a room where we are all engaging into tantric practices, where we are all dancing, we are all being ourselves without this aim. Oh my God, let's hook up. But really just enjoying ourselves. And this is the thing of this deep self love. Being there and understanding what are my own needs and
Yeah.
acting on them.
Yeah.
That's super important.
Yeah, it is. And I think also when I see like when somebody wants to hook up, it's like I think the underneath layer of it, they longing for love. But you when you long for love in that way, you are not open and you are in the neediness of getting something because you have a hole in yourself. And I think and that's what I found beautiful also with tantric practices and trainings. You go inwards and you do your shadow work and you go feel in yourself, where are my needs, where are my shadow parts, where do I have the hole that I want somebody to fill up. And yeah, if a lot of people do that, and you don't have to do it with tantra, but feel in yourself, oh, what is my need, and dare I be vulnerable. And especially also for men, it's like you may cry, and we can hold you, and the other way around, we're both feminine and masculine, and like an egg cell and a sperm cell, it's very physical and at the same time very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there is one thing that I have experienced in the Tantra therapy as well, um, is very often when people enter a space like that, it is the first time in their lives that they have been taught to take care of themselves, that they have actively been invited
Mhm.
to take
Yeah.
care of nobody else than themselves.
Yeah.
This is a huge thing
Yeah.
because we are, and I mean, yes, we are social beings, and we certainly cannot just live our lives with only taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
In one or the other way, we do engage and
Of course.
co-create and collaborate. Yet I feel that this permission of I'm here to hold space for you, or like we are here to hold space for you, and you are invited to be exactly who you want to be and to do exactly what feels right for you.
Hmm.
This is such a huge gift. This is a
Yeah.
huge gift, and we don't even need to go to a Tantra festival for that.
No?
We can go wherever we are in our friendships, in our families, in our relationships.
Yeah.
We can engage in this way to give people permission to be exactly and entirely themselves, for them to be uh, um, really living their full potential. And I really feel it like when I'm
Mhm.
breathing into this living their full potential, because I'm coming now from a space of remembering where I have really been asking myself, what am I doing here? Is this right for me? Is
Yeah.
this what I want to do? And at the end of the day, I was like, wow, this this path where I have been on doesn't feel so 100%. Why shouldn't I give something else a chance? And this is when I then started, I mean, I traveled even before for business, but I then started traveling for my pleasure only,
Mm.
living where I wanted to live. Okay, I didn't get that far because the fourth country was Bali, and this is where I stayed for 10 years. But okay. But in some way, I do see as well that, you know, like allowing oneself to feel that what is inside, what qualities do I have, what I want, what is my mission on this life, what do I
Yeah.
want to bring in. And you know, sometimes when we have reached a certain age and maybe we are, let's say, there is always possible to create a change in life even when we are like advanced age, but sometimes things and conditions are maybe not in our favor. But if we allow our children or the next generation, the young generation, to live in that way, to live in that, um, yeah, to live their potential and just like to use whatever we have like paved for them already and to walk on this path, this is fabulous.
Yeah, it is. And I have, of course, three children, but I really, yeah, I live my life like, okay, I should go dancing tonight. And I was this morning, no, I don't feel it. So I called my friend, said, sorry, I don't feel it. Oh, me neither. So it was a match, but we can do that even if she was looking forward to it, and we honor each other. But there's such programming and focusing on taking care of the other. And but if you turn it around and you start taking care of yourself and feel, if you want to do it, it's a fuck yes, go do it. If you're like, I don't know, then don't do it. And it's as simple as that. And yet it's the most difficult thing to do.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and yeah, you can lose friends, you can lose relationships over it. And but for me, if I look at my life, I had such a gift, and my life is now such in a flow and abundance, and I'm doing the things I love. I just came back from Cyprus, Aesthetic Dance Festival. Yeah,
Mm.
like I'm living my life, and I'm so happy that I choose me. And even though I had to be stopped by the universe and had chronic fatigue syndrome, I really thank the universe and being thankful that I had to do it. Otherwise, I was still a teacher and maybe still in a marriage where I wasn't really happy, and I
Mhm.
didn't have any juiciness and fun. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's quite a journey, but I only can say to everybody, you're worth it. And that's a stigma we can break.
Hmm. And there is a special joy in living this out.
Yeah.
There, there is a this moment of waking up in the morning and going to sleep with this thought, I'm looking forward to this day. And in the night, like, oh, I've really done something meaningful today. This is completely different than
Yeah.
the regular pattern most people go to sleep with. And
Yeah.
maybe we can change a little bit of that. And sometimes I people ask me like, wow, you know, they would like to drop everything, and I understand the desire, but sometimes it's
Yeah.
the small things, and you have just mentioned it. Oh, I don't feel like going to ecstatic dance, or like, I don't feel like raising our voice and speaking out for the things we like, or setting our boundaries and expressing our emotions. This can already be beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Or just if you always wanted to learn how to paint, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
go do it and explore and get a hobby. And it doesn't have to be big. We both changed our whole lives and jobs and make our own businesses. But a lot of people think they have to do then something like a mission. No, you can keep it very small. What
Yeah.
little changes do you want to have in your life? What hobbies, or maybe you want to take a trip to a certain country. Okay, maybe it can't be 6 months, but if you want to go there, make it 3 weeks. Can you make it happen then and enjoy that in a different form? But yeah, make small changes step by step.
Yeah, and I in this fragment of a second when we maybe about to see if we're gonna continue life or if it's gonna end in the next moment.
Hmm.
um, I've been just recently thinking about it, as so many people close to me have been passing away, and I've been thinking about myself, if like if tomorrow would be the day, or even if now in 1 hour the day would happen, I think I would really be in very much like harmony with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that I have lived everything I could. I haven't missed opportunities. I've been following my heart's desires and listening to what feels good to me. And even the years that I have worked in the corporate business that were intense, but even then I have been doing what I really, really love. So it's definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm. It is. And just exactly where what you said, being okay and letting this life go, that's the point you want to be. So what it is, it's like a surrender, and then everything opens up and flows, and the magic is happening.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Um, I wanted to ask you, the yoni eggs. You sell them, and I felt the energy. They're really, really good and really helpful. Um, but of course, it involves self pleasure, but also exercises to make your yoni stronger, or different things you can do with it. But a lot of, especially older women, I see, are having trouble with self pleasure.
Mhm.
Can you, yeah, tell something about it, or how you can do that to start loving yourself, and not only with the yoni? What do you suggest to women who are have a lot of shame or don't want to touch themselves?
So there is a belief that when we are self-pleasuring, you will see all the sun shining into my face. I'm at the right spot of the sun today.
Yeah.
um, there is a belief that when we are practicing self-pleasure, that this is a certain that this is a practice with certain movements, a specific form of touch, and a particular result.
Hmm.
So here comes the big secret. It's not.
Hmm.
I can self pleasure myself. I can self pleasure while just like holding my fingers. Or let's do that right now. Like, let's do that. This is like incredibly sexy. Like, just playing with the fingers around the neck, just the tip of one finger, just like to feel it and to feel it moving and just let it randomly run over neck and throat. And then maybe include the second finger and let it play.
Hmm.
And then the third. And maybe the top of your hand. Anything we are
Hmm.
doing that gives us joy is self pleasure.
Yeah.
I know that it's sometimes reduced to the sexual act. Now, but let's get to the point of what most people are afraid to ask, and you have been asking, and I'm grateful for that. Sometimes when people practice self pleasure, they do it for the sake of having the result, experiencing an orgasm.
Hmm.
And let's now talk about women, because for women it's sometimes more challenging, more frightening to pleasure themselves. Put all the shame and all the conditioning and everything we've been talking about, put that on side. Let's get to the practical thing. Um, we learn to pleasure ourselves in a very specific way, and usually in a way that we experience a clitoral orgasm. So um, it's a lot of rubbing and movement, and sometimes it needs to be quick. For me, my greatest shift was when I started experiencing and living this pleasure in every part of my body.
Hmm.
First of all, understanding that that pleasure from this tiny little hood, that
Hmm.
is a huge organ, but a huge, I mean, that's a bigger organ, but this
Hmm.
tiny little visible hood is not everything. That's the
Yeah.
clit. And it goes even further on the different extensions of it. That part of the pleasure includes my pelvic floor, that part of the pleasure includes my perineum, that maybe part of my pleasure just includes like massaging the inside of my thighs and looking at them while I'm doing it and really loving them and being in love with them and really feeling every millimeter of the fingertips on my hands, on my skin, and in the exchange feeling the skin on my fingertips. So this is an interplay.
Yeah.
And then understanding as well that there is not just this kind of vaginal and clitoral orgasm, there is the anal orgasm, there is the breast orgasm, there is a full body orgasm. So there are so many levels. And in the moment we are putting it onto this clitoral only, we are reducing the joy to a tiny, tiny little kind of ping spark that is very quickly over. But it's fabulous when we are capable of running this orgasmic energy through the body over and over and over again. And sometimes for 1 hour, for several hours, for a whole night. This is incredible. And how I teach my women to start loving themselves is literally with touch. So we like there are so many different practices we can do, and I have a whole yoga puja, yoni puja created for that. But one of the super most effective tools for me that helped me is simply putting my hand on my yoni. In the tantric world, it's called the empty hand. And the empty hand touches the yoni without expectation. It touches without any result. There is no must do that, have to do that, must perform in a special way. You are only good if you look like this. No, rubbish. This doesn't exist. What exists is I place my hand on my yoni and I just let it sit there. And everything that comes up, the shame, the fear, that kind of, closure, the judgment, everything closes with that. Like I feel how these monkey mind starts to sort of, the more I'm holding my hand, the more it becomes so pointless and so powerless because I have the power, and this mind can't even imagine how beautiful I can think of myself. So yes, there might be some crazy voices coming up there, but I know it better. This is how I keep my women really staying present with this waves that are coming and moving through them, integrating breath whenever there is touch. It's good, and it's of advantage to know how to regulate the breath. And when we do that together, it becomes this very powerful game of self-acceptance. And it doesn't only have to be with the yoni, it doesn't have to be with the lingam or with the genitals. It can be with any part of our body. Like, I'm gonna show you, like, look, my nose is really big. Like, I really suffered for many years because of this big nose, up to the moment I came to Asia, and they were all like, she's the queen, she has this big nose. And I was totally terrified with them. Everybody, they wanted to touch my nose. Wow. I thought, what kind of strange people are they? Up to the moment I understood this is just my limitation. The things, my nose is too big for my face, for my life. For these people, this is the most beautiful nose on the planet. And this is when I started understanding. So be it the nose, be it the right eyebrow, be it the hair, the earlobes, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just place your hand, feel into all this rubbish conditioning that you've been telling yourself over and over and over again. You've been identifying with it. Like, women have been identifying with how ugly and nasty and unacceptable parts of their bodies are, that they can't even imagine how it is not to have this self-talk, this very destructive self-talk. So change that, place your hand, breathe into it, and just work through the different experiences that are coming up. And with the time, you will see how all this walls that you have created with the different thinking patterns are slowly disappearing, and how this deep sense of self-love starts forming in. That's a process, like you can't even avoid it even if you wanted to. This is how powerful it is.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. I think it's really, really helpful for the women who follow me and watch this particular podcast. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and also the exercise like you did, I do. I sometimes just sit and really gently touch myself, and not for sexual arousement, but it's so I love it. I'm just like and I feel the softening, and really can feel what you just described, like on my fingertips, but also here, my neck or my arms, or I'm just like sitting on my face, and I'm like it's like so the sweetness, and you soften up, and you really open up by it, and that's for me also self pleasure, and it's not always about the yoni, and it's like my whole body, or when I'm in my shower, like really conscious with the soap and massaging my breast and my arms, but really loving my body and giving the touch that I want, and my body longs for.
Yeah. Do you know what I do to have like a super great dose of self-love?
No.
I massage my breasts with oil every night.
Oh wow,
I
wow.
massage my breasts, and when I massage, oh, now the YouTube is gonna YouTube is gonna cancel us now because I touched.
No, it will not.
So I massage my breasts, and I massage this whole area here.
Mhm.
And first of all, the touch. Second, this good quality oil that is just so nourishing. It feels like my
Mhm.
skin is drinking it in. And then to go to bed with this kind of very yummy feeling. Wow, this is self-love.
Yeah,
This
it
is
is.
such a dose of self-love. So it's worth looking at that at some
Yeah,
point, and
it
just
is.
changing sometimes a little bit of patterns we have in our lives.
Yeah.
Like we all have habits of doing things, and maybe already creating a little, it doesn't have to be the boobs every night. You can
No.
massage your face every night. Like every night, a little face massage with your night cream or with a
Mhm.
serum, or I don't know what women are using, or with oil or whatever. Just like, like just not only just kind of
No.
but really going into that under the bones and in the tissue, and while I'm already doing that, I'm already feeling like how much joy it brings me.
Yeah, it is. And for example, a lot of people, I can do it sometimes in my bed, still watching social media. Instead of doing that, give yourself indeed the breast massage or whatever part you want to massage, but put away your phone and implement the touch for yourself.
Yes, especially, I lived for 23 years now. I lived in mostly tropical places, desert. So usually where it's hot throughout the year, some way hot, like sometimes not so hot, but still for European,
Yeah.
still very hot. And now this winter, I'm still here in Europe, and it's already very cold.
Yeah.
I found myself the moment it became cold, like mid-September, I found myself in bed in the morning instead of my morning ritual, which is like getting up, meditating, practicing yoga, making myself some warm tea and so on, just like, getting into this kind of very soft mode of the day. I found myself so many times I caught myself in bed with my phone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this needs to stop immediately because it's not healthy for me. And it's not like, no, look, if it doesn't matter if it's healthy or not, I have every day, I have the evidence that it's not serving me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at least after half an hour, when I feel like, oh, I can't move my hand, I know that I overdid.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Alone with my osteopath, like today, he went into this shoulder here, and he said, "This is not good." And I said, like, it's painful. He said, "Well, you wanted it."
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's super important that we catch ourselves in the things we are doing.
Yeah. And more important, if you catch yourself, don't go in the self judgment. Just, okay, I was doing it again. I will change it tomorrow. New
Exactly.
day, new practice. And
Exactly.
and yeah, I think everything will get a little bit more lighter, and we're being human. It's all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where can people find you if they heard this and they're inspired and they want to have coaching or yoni eggs?
So after they can't find me on Google anymore, actually they can find me on Google because a lot of articles written there, like most of the articles on Yoni Egg Rocks are written by me and shared.
Mhm.
They can find me on Violeta Labella, or if I don't know, I can send you a link and you can share it with them. Like Yoni, it's yoniegg.rocks,
Mhm.
or violetalabella.com. This is where they can find me for any kind of all my conversations with women, I call them pussy talks. We have exchange on whatever intimate subjects they have in life, questions,
Mhm.
issues, situations. I'm a couple coach. I'm a educator. I'm a facilitator for energetic sex. So there is a huge field of tools I have for
Yeah.
women for the various questions in their lives.
Mhm.
And if I can be of service, I'm very happy to do so.
Right. And then I want to thank you for all your wisdom and beautiful talk and vulnerability. And I think we can bring a lot of beautiful things for everybody who listen to it.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you
Thank
there.
you.
Mhm.
Ciao.
Ciao.